Hey guys, and welcome to our first episode of The Coach's Perspective. And today I'm going to be talking about how I use programming for strength across a wide variety of clients and athletes. Basically, when I'm working with someone, the first thing I want to identify is what phase of training they're in relative to their sport. So for instance, with athletes coming into season, whereabouts are they and how much time do I have to work with them to induce maximum strength? Whereas with more general population clients and people who just sign up for personal training, I'm fortunate in which I can dictate that. I can say, in an ideal world, this is the 3-step process that we will go through to help maximize strength. And I hope gym goers and other PTs will look at this and have a good idea of what they're looking for in terms of programming to maximize the ability for someone to express strength. So 1, 2, and 3 is my macro cycles. Macro cycles for myself can last anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks. Again, it comes down to the time constraint with the client. Not many people want to sign up to a personal trainer saying, hey, in 18 weeks, we're going to express this strength. They more likely want to see those results in 10 to 12. Whereas some of my powerlifters who complete up at national level, if I say 16 weeks, they understand that they're going to be working for 16 weeks, and I'll split these 3 cycles over that time. So how long each cycle goes for will be totally dependent upon what exactly my time constraints are with that client. But either way, they look like this. Phase 1 or macrocycle 1 is basically, from the outside, a hypertrophy block. But inside, what I'm really focusing on is the skill. The load or the intensity is so low that we have that time to begin to practice that skill perfectly. This is the opportunity where I can give cues mid-set, after set, and I can hammer people constantly saying, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, you need to fix this. Also, we can begin to experiment with things because the loads are so low. It's in this time, by the end of this block, I want someone's squats, bench, deadlifts, rows, chins, whatever it is that we're working towards to be almost as perfect as I believe they can with their body in order to carry that over onto my other blocks. So the first big thing on the block is skill. The next one is hypertrophy. So a thicker muscle or a bigger muscle has the more potential for power. So that doesn't mean necessarily that the bigger guy is the stronger guy, but a thicker muscle does have that potentiation to express more force against the bar, against the ground, against another object, and therefore be stronger. So I do want hypertrophy, and I want hypertrophy in the specific areas of that strength. So in the idea of, say, powerlifters or weightlifters, I want to be doing lots of squats, lots of deadlifts, lots of RDLs, lots of hinges to build the muscles in the coordination that they're working in those patterns, and so that when we travel over, we can get that adaptation. So I don't want to see a lot of, say, leg pressing and a lot of lunging and a lot of leg extensions if my goal is to increase the strength of an athlete or client, because those are isolated exercises, they're single joint movements, and that's not going to carry over into our future blocks. Yeah, we can apply them, but they're not our main movements. And the other one, of course, is work capacity. And in programming, this is the overloading in volume, and we'll talk about that in a bit later. But it's actually the person's ability to recover from an X amount of volume of work. So I'll see a big mistake in some people is they say, we're going to start a hypertrophy or a work capacity block, and they'll start really on the top end of sets and reps, to say 4 sets or 5 sets of 10s and 12s. Whereas me personally, I might get people to start with like 3 by 10, and the goal by the end of the block is to reach 5 by 10. So week 1, their capacity was 30 reps, 3 by 10, and at the end of the block, their capacity was 5 by 10, that's 50 reps. That means their body has the ability to recover, come back to homeostasis after we've trained this, after we've reached this capacity, and then we can do more work in block 2 and more work in block 3. So that's pretty much the goal of block 1. Now we're moving into block 2. So of course, we deload in here and we're moving into block 2. This is a more traditional strength block. Our goal is to start to get those neural adaptations. So we have our central nervous system, where it's down to motor units. Motor units recruit our muscles. So our muscles don't control when they want to work or move. Our muscles are controlled by our central nervous system and our motor units. And this is where we start, as we're ramping up the intensity, our body will begin to recruit more percentage of a muscle belly. So for instance, in the quads, as we're doing a set of squats with lighter loads, we won't recruit 100% of the quads, but the closer to maximum we get, the more percent of those quads we use, and the more efficient our body gets at firing. So we start that in this second block. Again, then it's muscular strength. So as I said, hypertrophy, a muscle that's bigger has the potential for strength, but then a muscle this is where we're going to turn that potential, we're going to express it. We're going to say, we've just increased the density of your muscle fibers, now we're going to get them to become stronger. And that's what the goal of here in block 2 is. Now, we can actually run block 2 twice. So I might get someone to do macro 2 and a macro 3 with strength being the goal and running this twice. Then we move into block 3. Now, block 3 is all about specificity. And this is where, between here and 2 and 3, this is where I start to get really specific about your goals. So my rugby union clients, I'll start to target joint angles that are specific to them, say in the scrum or them during sprinting. But my powerlifters and my weightlifter clients, they will be doing specific movements that they will have to do in competition. Squats, bench, deadlifts, snatches, and cleans, things like that, because this is where we're going to express everything we've built into your performance. So specific movements are our goal here. And it's 110% about central nervous system. I want your central nervous system to recruit your muscle fibers, to express strength in the shortest period of time, to put out the most power possible, therefore most force, therefore the most potential for strength that you have. But the problem I see a lot of people doing is they jump straight to block 3 and ignores blocks 2 and 1. So things like squat every day, things like small off, these kind of basic strength programs, they jump straight into a block 3 scenario where they're getting your central nervous system to just become more efficient. And sure, you put 10, 15 kilos on some of your lifts, but once you hit that blockade, because you haven't done the setup work in blocks 1s and 2s, you cannot begin to progress further and further. And if I have the time, I will work someone from block 1 to block 3 to maximize their strength output. So let's have a look at how I specifically program each block. Okay, so now we're gonna get specific. When I do everything on Excel, I get my Excel up, what am I looking for? Now, I've color-coded it for your convenience. First one in purple is sets. So in block 1, how many sets do I want to be doing for each major exercise? And that is 3 to 5. A lower amount of sets here because the repetitions are going to be high in 6 to 10. Now you'll notice that I actually only do 6 to 10. I don't go above 10, but that's because of the specific adaptation in which I'm trying to induce. I'm trying to induce strength. And hypertrophy can be built anywhere between 6 and 20 reps, in my opinion. But the problem with those high rep ranges is we're targeting more slow twitch muscle fibers, targeting more myofibrillar hypertrophy, whereas sarcomere hypertrophy, ones that have been shown to benefit more strength, this occurs in the 6 to 10 rep range. So I will keep hypertrophy in the 6 to 10 range with an intensity of 65 to 75% of 1 rep max. Or when someone brings the load out, they think, oh, this is about a 6 to an 8 out of 10 of the maximum I could lift. Or another way I auto-regulate is reps in reserve. So I say, please lift 6 reps, and on the 6th rep, I want you to feel like you have 1 or 2 reps in reserve. That's how I measure my intensity. The other major goals, the other things I want to keep in mind for this block is full range of motion. Now, full range of motion is important because, as I said in the previous side, it's in block 3 that we talk about specific joint angle and strength. But in the first one, the hypertrophy, I don't want a single muscle fiber to miss out. I want every muscle fiber that can possibly lead to that action to be involved here. So I use a full range of motion. You won't see me doing half rep squats to pins or box squats in this phase. I won't be doing deadlifts just to the knees. I won't be doing bench presses to boards. This is all about making sure every muscle fiber that accrues to these movements are used. And the next one is overload and volume. Again, I talked about work capacity, our body's ability to recover from the amount of work we're doing, and I overload in volume here. So week 1 volume, week 2 volume, week 3 volume, and I measure volume in weights, sets, and reps. So that's pretty much what I'm looking to do. Can I add an extra set? Can I add some extra weight? Can I make this person do extra repetitions with the same load? So that's how I set up my block. We have our massive deload and we come into our block 2. We bump the sets up to 4 to 6 because our repetitions are going down. So I do want volume to be moderate between blocks 1 and 2. The volume doesn't necessarily have to drop too much, but I do want to keep it moderately high. So I keep 4 to 6 reps, bumping the sets up because I'm decreasing those repetitions. In terms of intensity, I go between 72.5% and 87.5%. And the reason why I'm so specific about it is because if I do get a chance to do 2 strength blocks with someone, their first one will be between 72 and 85%, and their second one will be between 85 and 87.5. And that's because I'm overloading intensity. Yeah, this block is all about making someone use more and more weight as the block goes on, keeping volume roughly the same. And I like wave-based programming for that. My other goal in this one, this is huge, is 0 failed reps. And that's because practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if I want someone to start nailing lifts, especially if their goal is powerlifting, is weightlifting, then I want every repetition to look perfect. We've had plenty of time in our first block to get the skill down packed. I now want you to maintain that skill while we move through this block. So perfect practice, 0 failed reps means the load is a little bit lighter than your maximum, meaning that you can handle it. And that after here, we've built up a neural adaptation, a muscular adaptation, and you haven't lost any of the skill of your lift. Once this is complete, we are finally ready to start to express our strength. We've built it here. We're now ready to express. We're now ready to show off our results, show what we've been able to do. And our sets, they're gonna have to come down because the major thing in peaking is your volume heads down like this, while your intensity heads up like this. So our sets drops down to 2 to 4, our repetitions drop down to 1 to 3, but our intensity wraps up to 90 to 100. Now you'll notice that I haven't said 102 and 105. So even though I do want my clients and my athletes to get stronger, not just yet. This block is about expressing the strength. So we'll work up to 100%. We will then deload fully, and that's when we'll do testing. That's when I put 102.5. That's when I put 105% of their original 1 rep maxes onto the bar, and we'll see what they can do from there. Again, major keys I'm looking for in this is a reduction in volume, the increase in intensity. This block, it's all about specificity. So if I do have, say, people going in season, I'm looking for joint angles that's gonna help their sprinting, if they're a field-based athlete. If they are, say, a powerlifter, I want everything to be in competition spec, belt, sleeves, shoes, low bar squats, deadlifts all the way. We want to be using calls, pauses on their bench, and things like that. So I hope that from this coach's perspective video, that you guys get a little understanding of the basic stuff that I use to help clients get as strong as possible. And the big takeaways are that all of this is relative to my time constraint. If someone came to me saying, Matt, I got 4 weeks till my season, I'd be forced to start here. But if I have 8 weeks, I'll start here. And if I have 12 weeks or more, I'll start here in week 1. For athletes, my recommendation is just to be prepared. Don't call up a strength and conditioning coach a month out from season and ask them to get you strong. Powerlifters, it's the same. And for any clients who's looking to get strong and you're serious about it just in the gym, just maximizing your lifts, try not to think about quick returns. Think long game. Think, I actually want to work through a hypertrophy, a strength, hypertrophy and skill, a strength block, and then I want to express it the best I can. If you guys got any questions, drop them in the comments, give me an email, check out our website. If you're looking for a program yourself, we can organize that for you.